They say the mind is powerful, but what if it's not the mind that truly rules your life? What if it's your emotions, quietly steering every decision, shaping your reality, and deciding how far you'll go? Think about it. How many times have you known what to do, yet couldn't bring yourself to do it? How often have you said something you didn't mean just because anger got there first? Or felt powerless against anxiety, sadness, or doubt, even when logic told you everything was fine? The truth is, emotions run deeper than thought. They are the silent current beneath every action, the unseen hands shaping your destiny. And until you learn to master them, you remain at their mercy. Mastering your emotions is not about suppressing them. It's not about pretending to be calm when you're breaking inside. And it's not about forcing yourself to be positive while pain still lingers in your heart. Emotional mastery is something far more profound. It's the art of understanding what you feel and directing that energy toward growth, clarity, and purpose. It's the difference between being driven by chaos and guided by wisdom. In this journey, we'll dive deep into the emotional world. We'll uncover where emotions come from, how they gain control, and most importantly, how to take that control back. You'll learn how awareness becomes your first weapon, how triggers lose their power when you name them, and how to transform pain into presence, turning every emotional wave into a stepping stone toward strength. Because the truth is simple. You cannot master your life until you master your emotions, and once you do, no storm, no person, no circumstance can shake the calm within you. Chapter 1. The Invisible Storm Within. Most people live their entire lives unaware that an invisible storm rages inside them. It's not the weather outside that destroys peace. It's the emotional turbulence within. You wake up one morning feeling hopeful, and by noon, a single message or tone of voice changes your entire mood. That's how emotions operate, silently, subtly, shaping the direction of your thoughts and the quality of your life. You may believe you're acting out of logic, but beneath every decision lies an emotional current. Every ambition, every argument, every hesitation, all of it is charged with feeling. And when you don't see that storm, it controls you. Emotions are energy in motion, waves that flow through your body faster than your mind can think. They are ancient signals designed to protect and guide you. Fear once kept your ancestors alive. Anger helped them fight for survival. Sadness helped them release and renew. But in our modern world, those same primal forces often misfire. A harsh comment can feel like an attack. A small setback can trigger despair. Because our environment has evolved faster than our emotional wiring, many of us are constantly reacting to ghosts, memories, worries, or stories we tell ourselves about what something means. And that's the danger of the invisible storm. You don't realize how much power it holds until it's already steering your behavior. One moment of anger can destroy a relationship you spent years building. One surge of fear can silence your dreams before they ever begin. One spark of shame can convince you that you're not enough, even when the world tells you otherwise. This is why mastering your emotions isn't optional, it's essential. Without awareness, you become a passenger in your own life, carried away by inner winds you can't even see. But awareness changes everything. When you begin to observe your emotions instead of drowning in them, the storm starts to slow. You start to see patterns. What triggers you, what soothes you, what repeats. And that awareness gives birth to choice. Suddenly you realize that emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. Each one tells you something about your unmet needs, your hidden fears, your deepest values. The storm doesn't exist to destroy you, it exists to wake you up. So the first step toward mastering your emotions is simple, yet profound. Stop fighting the storm. Listen to it. Feel it fully. Let it speak, but don't let it steer. Because every emotion you suppress becomes stronger, and every emotion you understand becomes lighter. The storm within you is not chaos, it's communication. And once you learn to hear its language, peace is no longer something you chase. It's something you become. Chapter 2. Awareness. The first key to emotional power. Awareness is where emotional mastery truly begins. You cannot change what you do not first recognize. Most people spend their days reacting, not reflecting. They get angry and call it just how I am. They feel anxious and say, that's just life. But those phrases are confessions of unconsciousness. They reveal how deeply emotions have taken the driver's seat. Awareness, on the other hand, is the act of stepping outside the chaos, of watching your emotions as they rise, move, and fade, instead of letting them command you. It's like switching from being a character lost in a movie to the observer watching it unfold on screen. The power of awareness lies in its simplicity. The moment you become conscious of what you're feeling, truly aware, the emotion begins to lose control over you. It's no longer an invisible force dragging you around. It becomes an experience you can witness, question, and understand. That split second of noticing changes everything. You might still feel angry, but now you know you're angry. And that awareness creates space between the emotion and your reaction. In that space lies freedom. Think of awareness as light entering a dark room. The darkness doesn't fight the light. It simply disappears. Likewise, the moment you bring awareness to an emotion, you start to see it clearly for what it is: energy, movement, sensation. You begin to recognize how your body reacts, the tightness in your chest, the clenching of your jaw, the rush of heat behind your eyes. Instead of labeling it bad, you witness it with curiosity. Interesting. My body feels this way when I'm criticized. That small act of observation is emotional alchemy. It transforms reactivity into understanding. But awareness is not a one-time event. It's a daily discipline. It's catching yourself before you spiral into worry. It's noticing the story you tell when someone disappoints you. It's observing the voice in your head that says, I can't handle this, and replying, maybe I can. The more you practice awareness, the more conscious your emotional world becomes. Reactions slow down. Patterns reveal themselves. And you begin to see that emotions are not random storms. They follow predictable rhythms, each pointing to something you can learn. Awareness is the first key to emotional power because it gives you choice. Without it, you're a puppet of circumstance. With it, you become the director of your inner life. Every time you pause, breathe, and name what you feel, you reclaim a little more of your strength. You turn chaos into clarity, confusion into comprehension, and pain into purpose. Because awareness doesn't erase emotion, it teaches you to lead it. And when you can lead your emotions, you can lead your life. Chapter 3. You are not your feelings. One of the greatest illusions in human experience is believing that we are our emotions. When anger rises, we say, I am angry. When sadness comes, we whisper, I am sad. But those simple words carry a dangerous lie, a fusion between who you are and what you feel. The truth is, you are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them, the conscious witness observing every wave that passes through your inner world. Emotions are temporary visitors. They knock, they speak, they leave. But you, the observer, remain constant. Think of emotions like weather patterns. Some days your sky is clear and golden with joy. Other days, it's heavy with clouds of doubt or storms of frustration. But no matter how wild the weather becomes, the sky itself is never destroyed by it. The clouds come and go, but the sky remains vast, untouched, and infinite. You are that sky, the limitless awareness that emotions move through. The moment you remember this truth, you stop identifying with every storm that passes, and you begin to find peace in the permanence of who you really are. The mistake most people make is confusing emotional experience with identity. They say, I'm a failure, instead of, I feel disappointed. They declare, I'm broken, instead of, I'm feeling pain. And each time you merge your identity with an emotion, You give it power it was never meant to have. You turn a passing state into a fixed self-concept. But once you separate yourself from your feelings, something miraculous happens. You regain control. You stop being trapped inside your emotions, and instead, you begin to use them as information, as guidance, as signals pointing you toward healing and growth. To master your emotions, you must learn the art of emotional detachment, not suppression, but separation. When sadness visits, notice it without judgment. Say to yourself, sadness is present right now. When anger burns, acknowledge it calmly. Anger is moving through me. This simple shift in language reminds your mind that you are not the emotion, you're the one witnessing it. That awareness creates distance, and distance creates clarity. From that space, you can choose your response instead of being consumed by reaction. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you'll never feel pain again. It means pain will no longer define you. You'll still experience waves of emotion. That's what makes you human. But they will pass through you like wind through open fields. You'll remain grounded, centered, untouched at your core. Because the truth is, emotions were never meant to be prisons. They were meant to be teachers. And the moment you realize you are not your feelings, you become free to feel everything without losing yourself in anything. Chapter 4. The triggers that control you. Every emotion you feel has a doorway, a moment, a thought, a memory that opens it. These are your triggers, invisible switches buried deep within your mind, waiting for something or someone to press them. A single word can ignite anger. A familiar tone can awaken insecurity. A harmless situation can suddenly feel like a personal attack. Triggers are the echoes of your past, replaying themselves in your present. And until you recognize them, they will keep steering your emotions without your permission. Most triggers are born from unhealed experiences. Maybe someone once made you feel small, and now any hint of criticism reopens that wound. Maybe love once came with betrayal, so now affection feels dangerous. The human mind is designed to remember pain, not to punish you, but to protect you. It builds emotional reflexes to keep you from getting hurt again. But protection can easily become limitation. When every uncomfortable emotion feels like a threat, you start living defensively, reacting instead of responding, closing off instead of opening up. To master your emotions, you must become an emotional detective, tracing every strong reaction back to its root. The next time anger rises, pause and ask, what is this really about? The next time fear grips you, look deeper. What memory does this feeling remind me of? Often, the present situation is only a spark. The true fire was lit long ago. The person who frustrates you today might simply resemble the one who once rejected you. The criticism that stings might mirror the voice of a parent or teacher from years past. Awareness of your triggers transforms emotional chaos into emotional clarity. But identifying triggers isn't about blaming the past. It's about freeing yourself from it. When you name a trigger, it begins to lose power. The emotional charge weakens because you've brought it into the light of consciousness. Suddenly, instead of being pulled by the same old patterns, you can choose a new response. You realize that your emotions are not warnings to hide, they are invitations to heal. Each trigger reveals where your heart still seeks peace, where forgiveness is needed, and where strength can grow. True mastery comes when the same situations that once disturbed you no longer have power. The insults don't sting, the delays don't frustrate, and the fears don't freeze you. Not because life changed, but because you did. You learn to recognize the trigger before it pulls you. You learn to pause before reacting. You learn that emotional freedom is not about controlling others, but about understanding yourself. Because once you know your triggers, nothing outside you can control what happens inside you again. Chapter 5. Reprogramming the Emotional Mind. The emotional mind is ancient, older than logic, older than reason, older even than words. It's the part of you that reacts before you think, that remembers sensations more vividly than facts, that holds on to pain long after the moment has passed. While the rational mind speaks in thoughts, the emotional mind speaks in feelings. And that is why you can't simply think your way out of an emotion. To truly change how you feel, you must reprogram the emotional mind itself, the hidden system that decides how you interpret every experience you have. Every emotion you feel begins with a meaning your mind assigns. Something happens, and within seconds, your emotional mind labels it. This is good, this is bad, this is dangerous, this is safe. That label determines how you feel. The problem is, most of these meanings were programmed long ago, shaped by childhood experiences, past hurts, and repeated beliefs. If you grew up feeling unseen, your mind might now interpret indifference as rejection. If you once failed and felt shame, your mind might now associate new challenges with danger. You're not reacting to the present, you're reacting to the memory of the past, disguised as the present moment. Reprogramming begins when you consciously rewrite those meanings. Instead of automatically labeling an event as bad, ask, what else could this mean? When someone ignores you, maybe they're not rejecting you, maybe they're distracted or fighting their own battle. When you fail at something, maybe it's not a sign of weakness, maybe it's feedback for growth. Each time you reinterpret an experience, you change the emotional signal attached to it. Over time, the emotional mind begins to learn a new language, one that replaces fear with curiosity, shame with understanding, and pain with perspective. But this process requires patience and repetition. The emotional mind learns through experience, not intellect. That means affirmations alone won't work unless they are felt. You must feel the new truth in your body, not just say it in your head. Visualization, journaling, and emotional rehearsal help here. When you consistently imagine yourself calm in conflict, confident in uncertainty, or peaceful in chaos, your emotional mind begins to accept those states as normal. It starts rewiring its emotional responses to match your new identity. Reprogramming your emotional mind is not about denying what you feel. It's about teaching your emotions to serve your purpose instead of sabotage it. You become the author of new emotional patterns. You teach your nervous system that peace is safe, that success doesn't equal loss, that love doesn't equal pain. And slowly, the emotional mind, once ruled by fear, begins to trust you. That's when true transformation happens. You no longer chase emotional control, it becomes your natural state. Because when the emotional mind is trained to work with you instead of against you, even the strongest waves of feeling can't drown you, they carry you forward. Chapter 6. The Power of Response over Reaction. There is a silent moment between what happens to you and what you do next. A fraction of a second that determines the course of your life. Most people never see it. They live entirely inside their reactions. Someone offends them and they lash out. Plans fall apart and they panic. The body tenses, the mind races, and before awareness can intervene, emotion takes the wheel. But in that brief space, that pause between stimulus and response, lies the greatest human power, the ability to choose. Reaction is instinctual. It's automatic, fast, and driven by survival. It's the emotional mind screaming, "Do something now," without asking whether that action serves your highest good. Response, however, is deliberate. It comes from awareness, from the part of you that observes before it acts. When you respond, you take back control from the storm inside. You allow emotion to pass through the filter of consciousness. You ask yourself, what outcome do I truly want here? And who do I want to be in this moment? That single question shifts the energy entirely, from chaos to clarity, from reactivity to power. Learning to respond instead of react doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering the space between them and your actions. Imagine a heated argument. Your pulse quickens, your thoughts sharpen, your ego prepares to defend itself. The reactive mind wants to strike back immediately. But if you pause, even for 3 seconds, something magical happens. You interrupt the emotional chain, you let awareness in. You might still feel anger, but now it's under your command. You can breathe, think, and speak with intention. That's the moment you stop being controlled by emotion and start using it wisely. Response is strength disguised as stillness. It's the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to prove or defend because they understand that power isn't loud. It's centered. When you choose to respond consciously, you conserve your energy. You protect your peace. You stop giving temporary emotions permanent consequences. Over time, this habit rewires your brain and nervous system. The more you pause before acting, the more emotionally intelligent you become. You begin to notice that your life feels calmer, relationships improve, and problems resolve faster. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The ability to respond is emotional maturity in motion. It's the mark of someone who no longer lives at the mercy of external events. Life will still test you. It always will. But your power lies in how you meet those tests. Do you react from fear or respond from wisdom? Every time you choose response over reaction, you reinforce peace over chaos. You train your mind to stay steady in the storm. Because mastery isn't about controlling life, it's about controlling what life awakens within you. And when you can do that, no situation has the power to shake who you are becoming. Chapter 7. Transforming Negative Energy into Strength. Every emotion carries energy, even the painful ones. Anger, fear, sadness, disappointment. They are not signs of weakness. They are signals of power waiting to be redirected. Most people spend their lives running from negative emotions, trying to bury them under distraction, denial, or false positivity. But here's the truth. Energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed. When you learn to work with your negative emotions instead of against them, you unlock one of life's greatest powers, the ability to turn inner storms into fuel for growth. Anger, for instance, is energy. Left uncontrolled, it burns everything in its path, but when harnessed consciously, it becomes determination, focus, and courage. The same fire that destroys can also forge steel. Fear, too, is energy, a raw alertness that heightens your senses and sharpens your awareness. Instead of letting it paralyze you, you can let it prepare you. You can use fear as a compass, pointing toward the areas of life where growth is calling your name. Even sadness, often seen as weakness, is simply love without a home, an invitation to heal, to let go, to reconnect with what truly matters. Transformation begins with acceptance. You cannot change what you resist. The more you fight your negative emotions, the stronger they become. But when you face them, when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you begin to understand their message. Every emotion comes bearing wisdom. Anger may be telling you a boundary has been crossed. Fear may be warning you of unpreparedness. Sadness may be urging you to release what no longer serves you. When you stop labeling emotions as bad and instead ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" you shift from victimhood to mastery. Once awareness and acceptance are in place, the next step is redirection. Channel that same emotional energy into purposeful action. Turn anxiety into preparation. Turn heartbreak into creativity. Turn frustration into focus. History is filled with people who transformed pain into progress, who turned the ashes of suffering into the spark of greatness. They didn't escape emotion, they transmuted it. Every time you do the same, you build emotional resilience, a kind of strength that no external challenge can weaken. True mastery is not about living without negative emotions. It's about transforming them so completely that they become your greatest allies. When anger becomes drive, when fear becomes awareness, when sadness becomes wisdom, you rise above emotional control and step into emotional creation. You realize that every dark feeling carries light within it, waiting to be reclaimed. Because in the end, strength isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the moments when you decide that even your pain will serve your purpose. Chapter 8. The Language of Emotional Freedom. Every emotion has a voice, a language that speaks not in words, but in sensations, patterns, and inner dialogue. Most people never learn to translate it. They feel overwhelmed because they don't understand what their emotions are saying. But emotional freedom begins when you learn to listen. It's the art of giving your inner world a language, one that allows you to process, express, and release what you feel without being consumed by it. Because the truth is, emotions don't want to control you. They just want to be heard. The first step in emotional freedom is naming what you feel. It sounds simple, but it's transformative. When you can clearly say, "I feel hurt, I feel angry, I feel anxious," instead of numbing or denying, you separate yourself from the chaos. Naming an emotion brings structure to what was once just noise. The moment you label a feeling, your brain shifts from reaction to understanding, from the emotional mind to the conscious mind. Words turn the storm into something you can see, and what you can see, you can guide. Language also changes the emotional weight you carry. Notice the difference between saying, "I'm depressed," and "I'm experiencing sadness right now." The first statement fuses your identity with your emotion. The second acknowledges it as temporary. That single shift in language changes your relationship with the feeling. You move from being inside the emotion to observing it. Over time, this practice rewires the way your mind interprets emotional energy. Words become tools of liberation, each one loosening the grip of old limiting patterns. Journaling is one of the most powerful ways to practice this. Writing forces the emotional mind to slow down and articulate what it feels. When you write, "I felt invisible today when my opinion wasn't valued," you transform raw emotion into insight. You begin to notice triggers, recurring themes, and hidden beliefs. The page becomes a mirror, one that reflects your emotional reality with honesty and compassion. This is not about perfect grammar or poetic expression. It's about giving your emotions the space to breathe. And in that space, healing happens naturally. The language of emotional freedom is gentle, honest, and empowering. It doesn't deny pain, nor does it exaggerate it. It simply describes the truth with clarity, and clarity brings peace. The more you practice emotional articulation through speaking, writing, or inner dialogue, the more you untangle yourself from emotional confusion. You begin to live from understanding instead of reaction. You start to realize that your emotions don't define you, they communicate with you. And when you master their language, silence no longer feels like suppression, it feels like peace. Chapter 9. Emotional Resilience and Inner Calm. Emotional resilience isn't about being untouched by life's storms. It's about learning how to bend without breaking. It's the quiet strength that allows you to face chaos without losing your center. Most people think resilience means suppressing pain or pretending to be strong. But true resilience isn't resistance. It's recovery. It's the ability to return to balance no matter how far life pushes you off course. Inner calm doesn't mean you live in a world without noise. It means you've built peace within yourself that no noise can disturb. Resilience begins with acceptance. Life will challenge you. That's inevitable. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail, and emotions will rise like waves. When you fight against these moments, you amplify the pain. But when you accept them as part of your growth, you create space for transformation. Acceptance doesn't mean surrendering to defeat. It means saying, "This is where I am, and I have the power to choose my next move." That single shift turns suffering into strength. Every challenge becomes a lesson, every setback a teacher, and every emotion a signal pointing you toward greater understanding. To cultivate resilience, you must learn to regulate your emotional energy. Deep breathing, mindfulness, or even pausing before reacting. These simple practices train your nervous system to remain stable in uncertainty. When a difficult emotion arises, imagine your breath as an anchor grounding you to the present moment. Inhale calm, exhale resistance. This is how you teach your mind that it's safe to face discomfort. Over time, these small acts of self-regulation become powerful habits that reshape how you experience stress. You stop being the victim of your emotions and start becoming their master. Inner calm grows when you stop looking for peace outside yourself. You realize that calm is not something you find, it's something you create. It's built through consistency, the morning moments of stillness, the quiet reflections at night, the conscious choice to pause before speaking in anger. Calm is the accumulation of many small acts of awareness. And with each act, your inner world becomes less reactive and more centered. You begin to navigate emotional turbulence not by fighting it, but by flowing through it with intention. Resilience and calm go hand in hand. One gives you the strength to endure, the other gives you the serenity to heal. Together, they make you unshakable. You learn that no external event can truly destroy you, not when your peace comes from within. The world may test you, but it can no longer control you. That's the essence of emotional mastery. To remain grounded in the face of storms, unafraid of your emotions and anchored in a peace that nothing can take away. Chapter 10. Living Beyond Emotion, the State of Mastery. There comes a point on the journey of emotional growth where peace no longer feels like something you have to chase. It becomes the space you live in. This is the state of mastery. It's not that emotions disappear, it's that they lose their power to control your behavior, your choices, and your sense of self. You still feel anger, sadness, fear, and joy, but you experience them consciously, like waves passing through the ocean of your awareness. The waves no longer drown you because you've become the ocean itself. Living beyond emotion doesn't mean living without feeling, it means feeling deeply, but wisely. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad and start seeing them as energy in motion, messages guiding your evolution. Anger becomes a call for boundaries. Sadness becomes a request for release. Fear becomes a signal to grow. When you reach this level of understanding, every emotion becomes a doorway, one that leads you closer to self-awareness, authenticity, and freedom. You stop resisting and start listening. And that's where emotional mastery begins to unfold naturally. At this stage, your reactions transform into responses. Instead of being pulled by the chaos of every situation, you choose how to move through it. You respond from clarity, not confusion, from power, not pain. Your mind becomes still, yet sharp, your heart open, yet protected. You begin to see how emotions once shaped your reality, and now how consciousness shapes them instead. This inner stillness doesn't make you passive, it makes you present. You become an observer and a participant in your emotional life, fully engaged, but never enslaved. True mastery also comes from compassion, for yourself and others. You start to recognize that everyone is fighting invisible battles within their emotional worlds. The anger you once judged in others, you now see as unexpressed pain. The fear you once mocked, you now understand as vulnerability. This awareness softens you, yet strengthens you. It's the paradox of mastery. The more control you gain over your emotions, the less you need control over anything else. You move through life with quiet power, calm, confident, and free. To live beyond emotion is to live in harmony with the human experience, to embrace the full range of feelings while remaining anchored in peace. It's the realization that emotions are not your enemies, they're your teachers. Every rise and fall, every joy and sorrow has been shaping you into the calm observer you are becoming. When you reach this point, life stops feeling like a storm to survive. It becomes a dance to flow with. And in that dance, you discover the truest form of freedom, mastery over self. Conclusion: emotions are not the enemy. They were never meant to break you, only to reveal you. Every outburst, every tear, every wave of fear or joy has always carried one message: wake up, listen, grow. The true mastery of emotion is not found in control, but in consciousness. It's the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and still choose peace. To feel deeply, yet never be consumed. To hurt, yet never lose compassion. And to love, not because the world is perfect, but because you are finally free inside it. You've learned that awareness is the first key, that you are not your feelings, and that your triggers only have power when you remain unconscious. You've seen how the emotional mind can be reprogrammed, how response is stronger than reaction, and how pain can be transformed into power. You've discovered that calm isn't silence, it's the steady heartbeat beneath the noise. And most importantly, that freedom begins the moment you name, accept, and understand what you feel. To master your emotions is to master your reality, because your inner world is the architect of everything you experience. When you change your emotional pattern, you shift your vibration, and the world responds. Peace becomes your natural state, not because life gets easier, but because you've grown stronger. You stop chasing validation, stop fearing judgment, stop running from yourself. You realize that happiness was never somewhere out there. It was always a decision waiting to be made within you. So, as you walk away from this journey, remember this truth. Emotions are energy, and you are the one who decides how that energy flows. Choose to respond instead of react. Choose presence over panic. Choose understanding over avoidance. And when the storms rise, as they surely will, let your calm become your greatest power. Because mastery isn't about feeling nothing, it's about feeling everything, and still choosing peace. You see, emotions were never meant to destroy you. They were designed to guide you. Every surge of anger, every wave of sadness, every flicker of joy, they're all messages from your inner world, asking to be understood. True mastery isn't about controlling how you feel. It's about understanding what your emotions are trying to teach you and choosing peace anyway. Because the moment you can pause, breathe, and respond with awareness, you reclaim your power. You are not your feelings. You are the consciousness behind them, the observer who decides what story they tell. And when you understand that, life begins to change. You stop reacting to chaos and start creating calm. You stop seeking peace in the world and start radiating it from within. So, when the storms rise, and they always will, remember this. Peace is not found in the absence of emotion, but in the mastery of it, because the one who masters emotion masters life itself. If this reflection moved you, take a moment to share it with someone who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe to Summary Shelf, where every story, every insight, and every lesson is a step closer to your highest self. Until next time, stay aware, stay calm, and always master your emotions.